You ever watch a team completely implode in real time? Like, not just lose a game, but detonate their own season on national television, and then get publicly humiliated by another team's owner, while still trying to pretend they have it all under control. Yeah, that was the Cleveland Browns. And the man pouring gasoline on the fire? Jerry freaking Jones. Because when the Browns hit the field against the Bengals, and let's be generous here, they didn't just play poorly.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
They didn't just bench a rising star quarterback. They collapsed into themselves like a dying star. And right in the middle of it all, Jerry Jones, sipping whatever billionaire juice he drinks during games, looked at the mess and said, This is why they'll never be us. Let's rewind a bit. The Browns came into the season with playoff buzz. Not hope, expectations. And why wouldn't they? They had talent. They had momentum. And most importantly, they had Shedeur Sanders. Yes, that's Sanders, on the roster. A quarterback with not just a famous name, but an actual spark. A dynamic, evolving presence who represented everything the new NFL was supposed to be: mobile, electric, and unapologetically confident. So, naturally, the Browns benched him. Instead, they trotted out Dillon Gabriel. Now, no disrespect to Gabriel, this isn't personal, but when your offense already looks like it's running Windows 98 on dial-up, maybe don't remove your only upgrade and replace it with a flip phone. The game started, and immediately it was clear. This wasn't going to be a loss. It was going to be a funeral. Gabriel looked nervous, confused, slow. The pocket collapsed, the reads weren't there, and the offense sputtered like a dying lawnmower. It wasn't just bad, it was egregious. You could feel it. The crowd could feel it. And clearly, Jerry Jones really felt it. Because somewhere in the second half, with the Browns' locker room already looking like the set of a disaster movie, Jerry took to the mic during the broadcast and let everyone know what he thought. And boy, he did not hold back. Now remember, this isn't just some Twitter troll. This is Jerry Jones, Dallas Cowboys kingpin, one of the most powerful figures in the league. And he looked dead into the NFL camera lens and basically said, this is what happens when you don't know how to run a team. It was a scorched earth monologue. He slammed the Browns' quarterback decisions. He mocked the coaching staff. He made very thinly veiled jabs at their leadership. And then, with a kind of smug clarity only a billionaire Texan can pull off, he reminded everyone watching that this chaos doesn't happen in Dallas. You could hear the mic drop all the way from Arlington. But this wasn't just an offhand comment or salty trash talk. This was strategy. Jones didn't just want a critique. He wanted to control the narrative. By torching the Browns on national TV, he wasn't just clowning a rival. He was elevating his own image. Jerry framed himself as the progressive owner, the forward thinker, the guy who wouldn't bench Shedeur Sanders, the guy who values raw talent over outdated conservatism. It was brutal. And it worked. Because while Jerry was giving a masterclass in media manipulation, the Browns were falling apart in real time. Stefanski, the head coach, looked like a man watching his own job slip through his fingers. The locker room? Shattered. There were already whispers of players calling out coaching decisions behind closed doors. And fans? Oh, they lost it. Within hours, #Shedeur Sanders was trending. Fans were demanding answers. Sports shows turned the Browns into meme content. Rival fan bases started trolling the team like it was their full-time job. And the Browns' own supporters? They were organizing protests, flooding forums, and dragging the front office up and down the internet like it owed them money. It wasn't just a bad week, it was a full-blown mutiny. And in the middle of all that digital chaos, you had to wonder, why was Shedeur benched in the first place? Because let's be honest, this wasn't just a football decision. This had undertones. Subtext. Sanders isn't just another young QB. He's a symbol. The son of DIDN. A black quarterback with swagger, presence, and a giant target on his back. Benching him didn't just feel like poor strategy. It felt pointed. And the optics? Awful. There's a generational tension in the league right now. A shift happening in real time. The old school play-it-safe approach is losing ground to a new era of aggressive, unconventional talent. Shedeur represents that. So does his father. And when you bench that kind of energy in favor of Dillon Gabriel, it sends a message. And it's not a good one. Meanwhile, the NFL league office is watching all this unfold with a tight-lipped panic of a parent watching their kid set off fireworks in the living room. Because it's not just about one game. It's about the product. This was a primetime slot, a marquee matchup. And instead of showcasing rising stars and competitive fire, the Browns handed viewers a disaster wrapped in mismanagement. Ratings dipped. The narrative spiraled. And now the league is quietly debating whether they need to step in. Because when teams start benching stars without explanation, and when owners start turning live broadcasts into TED Talks about how not to run a team, the league starts to worry about precedent, about brand image, about the bottom line. And that's where Jerry's brilliance really shows. Because while the Browns are getting chewed up in crisis meetings and emergency strategy sessions, Jerry's over in Dallas sipping whiskey and polishing his petty billionaire of the year trophy. He didn't just win the media war, he controlled it. Every headline, every segment, every trending topic was fueled by his commentary. He became the narrator of the Browns' collapse. And the Browns? They handed him the mic. Now what happens next is anyone's guess. Stefanski could double down on his decision and keep Gabriel in, which would be the equivalent of trying to put out a fire with gasoline. Or maybe the front office caves to fan pressure and reinstate Sanders, hoping to ride the PR wave of "we heard you." Or maybe, just maybe, the league forces their hand, subtly pushing for Sanders to start again to preserve the illusion of competitive integrity. None of these options are clean. None of them are simple. Because the damage is already done. Trust is gone. The locker room is fractured. The fan base is furious. And Jerry Jones? He's sitting back, knowing that a single, carefully aimed comment dismantled the division rival better than any defensive line ever could. This isn't just a Brown story. It's a parable. A cautionary tale of what happens when ego trumps vision, when fear trumps innovation, and when you underestimate the power of narrative. Because in 2025, NFL drama isn't just about the scoreboard. It's about who controls the story. And Jerry? Jerry knows how to write a bestseller. So here we are. The Browns are reeling. Shedeur Sanders is a cultural lightning rod. The media's circling like sharks. And the league is trying to keep the ship afloat without tipping the balance of power too, obviously. All because one team benched their future to preserve their past, and another team's owner called them out in front of the entire country. Moral of the story? If you're going to torch your own season, at least make sure Jerry Jones isn't holding the match. Now tell me, was this a coaching failure, a cultural misfire, or a full-blown sabotage? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because I need to know who you're blaming for this mess. And hey, if you love watching NFL chaos unfold like a reality show gone rogue, make sure you subscribe. We've got meltdowns for days. Because once that broadcast went off the air and the memes started rolling in, and Shedeur's name started dominating the trending tab like a breakout rapper dropping a diss track, you could almost feel the tension boiling inside that Browns facility. Imagine the late-night meetings, the urgent phone calls, the PR interns sprinting through hallways like it's the third act of Succession. All because one man with a microphone and a decades-long grudge against mediocrity decided to make an example out of Cleveland. And let's talk about that example for a second. Jerry Jones didn't just air out the Browns because he was bored or petty. He did it because he could. He saw an opportunity to solidify himself not just as a powerful owner, but as a tastemaker in the NFL's shifting culture war. Old guard versus new blood. Loyalty to legacy versus betting on boldness. And by dragging Cleveland's decision to bench Shedeur through the mud, Jerry positioned himself on the right side of history, at least in the eyes of fans who are tired of watching teams fumble their own future. It's chess. Petty, gorgeous, media-savvy, billionaire chess. Meanwhile, inside the Browns organization, panic. Not strategic, focused urgency, no. This is blind panic. Because what they thought was a controversial call has turned into a full-blown referendum on the soul of the team. And the worst part? There's no spin that makes this look good. The coaching staff looks out of touch. The front office looks cowardly. And the locker room probably feels like a high school group project where no one agrees, and the teacher just announced it's worth 50% of your grade. And poor Dylan Gabriel. Honestly, the man was set up to fail. You throw him into the fire against a division rival, with a fan base that's already skeptical, while benching the most talked-about quarterback on your roster. That's not a game plan, that's a sacrifice. He never stood a chance. Every incomplete pass just fueled the outrage. Every stalled drive made Shedeur look better, by contrast. Gabriel was like a placeholder in someone else's narrative, and everyone watching knew it. But let's not pretend Shedeur is just some viral name or hype machine. He's a symbol now. His benching became bigger than football. It became about who gets to be the face of a franchise. And the Browns? They fumbled that decision in 4K. There's this undercurrent in the league, especially around young black quarterbacks, that still feels weirdly loaded. Like they're allowed to be electric, but only if they follow the right script. Not too flashy, not too confident, and certainly not attached to a last name that reminds everyone of a time when tradition was being challenged at every level. Shedeur doesn't fit that mold, and neither does Dion. So when the Browns chose to sit him, it wasn't just seen as a tactical error. It looked like fear. Fear of what he represents, of the attention, of the shift. And that fear? It's contagious. Because now the league has a decision to make too. Do they step in and try to course-correct this mess quietly? Maybe a few suggestions behind closed doors, a nudge-nudge about giving the fans what they want. Or do they stay hands-off and risk more teams taking notes? Because if benching a potential star in a primetime slot doesn't come with consequences, what's stopping anyone else from doing it? Remember, the NFL isn't just a sport, it's a television empire. Every Sunday is a live episode of America's most-watched soap opera. And when the Browns decide to skip a compelling storyline for the football equivalent of beige paint, everyone loses. The fans, the networks, the advertisers, even the merch sales probably took a hit. And that's why this meltdown matters. Because it's not just about who starts at quarterback. It's about what kind of league the NFL wants to be in 5 years. Do they lean into the new wave? Or do they keep clinging to outdated instincts and safe choices that lead to safe, forgettable football? And Jerry, say what you want about the man. He knows which side sells tickets. He saw what Dion did at Colorado. He knows Shedeur brings eyes, drama, and ratings. He knows this league doesn't need another system quarterback. It needs a star. And he also knows the Browns are too paralyzed by their own dysfunction to embrace that. It's actually kind of tragic when you think about it. Because the Browns had a real shot to flip the script, to be part of that cultural shift. But instead, they leaned back into the same old fear-based decision-making that's kept them locked in mediocrity for decades. It's like they've been handed a GPS out of the wilderness, and they still chose to walk in circles. And now, the damage is spreading. Fans are checked out. You can hear it in the stadium, feel it on social media. The passion's turning into resentment. Every post-game presser feels like a hostage video. And the players? They're not blind. They see the chaos, the lack of leadership, the wasted potential. And if you think they're going to quietly suffer through another lost season while the front office blames process and patience, you're kidding yourself. This is the kind of thing that breaks a team. So what happens next? Well, here's what could happen. Stefanski keeps trying to sell the lie. He starts Gabriel again, doubles down, says it's about development and scheme fit, and all those buzzwords teams use when they're stalling for time. But by then, the fans will have checked out. The locker room? Gone. The season? Toast. Or, best case, they admit the mistake. They give Shedeur the reins. Let him take the hits, the headlines, the pressure. And maybe, just maybe, he pulls them out of this nosedive. It's risky. But at this point, what isn't? Because if there's one thing Jerry Jones accidentally made very clear, it's this. You can't hide from your own cowardice forever. You can't silence the fans. You can't trick the media. You can't pretend everything's fine when your stadium is half empty and your star rookie is warming the bench while the world watches. Eventually, something has to give. And here's the real kicker. The Browns could have avoided all of this. They could have taken the field with Shedeur. Maybe they still lose to the Bengals, sure. But the narrative? Completely different. Young QB learning. Tough game, but promising flashes. Instead, they benched their future and got humiliated. Then they got eviscerated by a rival owner on live TV. And now they're not just bad, they're a punchline. Congratulations, Cleveland. You didn't just fumble the ball. You fumbled the moment. So if you're wondering how long this circus will last, here's your answer. Until someone takes control. Until someone GM, coach, ownership, stand in front of a mic and stops feeding us platitudes and process talk. Until someone says, we got scared. We got it wrong. But here's how we fix it. But knowing the Browns, they'll probably hold another meeting, make another safe decision, and hope we forget. Spoiler, we won't. Because even if the Browns somehow manage to clean up the mess on the surface, issue a few carefully worded statements, leak a few internal sources talking about how much they believe in Shedeur, the truth is, the cracks go way deeper. This isn't just a quarterback controversy. This is a full-blown identity crisis. And Jerry Jones? He didn't just throw shade. He pulled back the curtain. He exposed what a lot of us already suspected. The Browns aren't just struggling with X's and O's. They're struggling with who they are, what they stand for, how they see themselves in a league that's rapidly evolving. And right now, they look like the guy still trying to burn CDs in the era of streaming. Meanwhile, Jerry is out here on NFL Spotify, dropping diss tracks in surround sound. It's actually kind of poetic when you think about it. The Browns had everything set up for a redemption arc. A roster with pieces. A young, exciting QB with a famous bloodline. A chance to shake off decades of same old Browns jokes and finally step into the spotlight as something new. And instead, they went full nostalgia mode. Picked caution over chemistry. Picked safe over spectacular. And they paid for it. Publicly. Nationally. Brutally. Let's talk about the psychological toll for a minute. Imagine being Shedeur Sanders. You grow up in the limelight. You thrive under pressure. You've got the stats, the swagger, and the media magnetism most franchises dream about. And then you get benched, not because you failed, but because someone in the front office decided it wasn't the right moment. You think that doesn't mess with your head? You think the other young players on that team aren't watching? The Browns didn't just bench a quarterback. They sent a message. Play well, work hard, bring attention, and we'll sit you anyway. That's a recipe for distrust. That's how locker rooms split. And when the losses pile up, as they always do when dysfunction leads the charge, those fractures don't just heal on their own. And now let's flip it. Imagine being Dylan Gabriel. You're told you're the guy. You walk onto the field, maybe believing for a second you can prove people wrong. Then the snaps start. The pressure hits. The line caves. And you realize you're not just playing a football game. You're playing the role of villain in someone else's redemption story. It's impossible. He wasn't just stepping into a position. He was stepping into a powder keg. And no matter what he did, the narrative was already written. That's what this Browns team has become. A collection of narratives that are constantly colliding. Coaching staff versus fans. Front office versus the locker room. Legacy versus innovation. And nobody's steering the ship with a clear vision. Which, again, is exactly what Jerry Jones capitalized on. The guy's a lot of things. Dramatic, polarizing, egotistical. But clueless? Never. Jerry has survived and thrived in the NFL for decades because he understands something most owners don't. In the NFL, perception is half the game. You don't just win. You look like you know how to win. You build a brand that tells the league, the fans, the players, we have a plan. And right now, whether you love the Cowboys or not, everyone knows what they're about. Star power. Big moments. Risky moves. Identity. What do the Browns have? A controversy. A very public, very avoidable controversy. And what's wild is they had the chance to get ahead of it. Before kickoff. Before the implosion. Before Jerry turned their blunder into a sermon. They could have just started Shedeur. Let the kid ball out, win or lose. Frame it as investing in the future. Position the team as progressive, forward-thinking, unified. Instead, they hesitated. And hesitation? That's the kiss of death in the NFL. This league moves fast. Stars rise and fall in weeks. One bad month, and you go from team on the rise to full rebuild. One misstep with the media, and suddenly your locker room is a TMZ segment. So now, with the season spiraling, the Browns face a choice. Not just about Shedeur, about everything. About what kind of franchise they want to be. Do they keep playing PR chess, issuing vague statements about internal evaluations and long-term planning? Or do they do something rare in the NFL? Something honest? Because if Stefanski steps up tomorrow and says, "We made a mistake. Shedeur should have started. He's our guy moving forward," that would be a moment. That would show courage, leadership, accountability. But let's be real. When has Cleveland ever done the brave thing? If history holds, they'll stall. Maybe start Shedeur, but pretend it's about rotations. Keep throwing vague hints about scheme fit. All while the media continues to feast on their indecision like vultures circling a carcass. And Jerry? He'll just sit back, smile, and maybe drop another quote or two. Because the longer the Browns flail, the better he looks. It's not just petty. It's strategic domination. And honestly, it's kind of genius. But let's not give him too much credit. This situation is also a test for the NFL as a whole. Because when a team blatantly benches a marketable, promising young quarterback during a primetime slot and gets roasted for it, what responsibility does the league have? Do they stay silent and let teams self-destruct? Or do they start whispering into headsets behind the scenes? Because make no mistake, the league is watching this. Every GM, every owner, every marketing exec. Because what happened in Cleveland wasn't just embarrassing, it was bad business. The NFL lives and dies by storylines. And when you sabotage your best one out of fear, the league starts to worry. About ratings, about engagement, about image. So don't be surprised if the next time Shedeur is on the sideline during a primetime game, someone from up top makes a call. Not a "you must start him" call, but a suggestion, a nudge, a reminder that the NFL is not just a sport, it's a product. And no one tunes in to watch Dylan Gabriel throw checkdowns while Shedeur Sanders eats sunflower seeds on the bench. So where does that leave us? With a franchise at war with itself. A young QB caught in the crossfire. A coaching staff under siege. A fan base exhausted. And Jerry Jones standing in the wreckage like the narrator of a Greek tragedy. And if you think this is just going to blow over, oh no, baby, this is just getting started. Every press conference from here on out will be scrutinized. Every tweet, every snap. If Shedeur starts next game, great, but he better deliver, or the Browns risk looking like they only cave to pressure. If he doesn't start, the firestorm continues. There's no clean exit. Because the Browns didn't just lose a game, they lost control of the story. And once that's gone, it's nearly impossible to get back. Jerry Jones didn't destroy them. He didn't have to. He just lit the match and let them burn themselves. So what's the moral here? Simple. In the NFL, fear doesn't just lose games. It ruins legacies. You can have all the talent in the world. The next-gen QB. The market. The hype. But if you don't trust what you built, if you blink at the moment of truth, someone else will write your ending. And they won't be kind. So Cleveland, you're on the clock. Again, will you finally grow a spine and lead? Or keep fumbling your future while the league watches with popcorn? Drop your thoughts below. Let's talk. Because this saga, it's far from over. And trust me, the cameras are still rolling.